After the real daughter of the Prime Minister's family was recognized and returned to her roots, I, the imposter, happily packed my bags and went back to my biological parents' beggar's den. Half a month later, my biological father became the emperor, my mother became the empress, and my brother became the crown prince. I effortlessly gained the status of a princess, while the Prime Minister's daughter turned green with regret, vowing to reclaim everything she had missed. I laughed. This time I wouldn't be fooled again, because in this life, I had been reborn. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. My name is Miranda, the youngest daughter of the Left Chancellor's household, who has always lived a life of luxury and privilege, until the year I turned 18, when a girl from a beggar's den named Maria came to the Chancellor's residence with a crescent moon jade pendant, claiming kinship. She said she was the true heiress of the Chancellor's household, and I was just an imposter switched at birth. Everyone was shocked. The Chancellor's wife embraced her biological daughter and wept bitterly, heartbroken over the years of suffering her child had endured in the beggar's den. The Prime Minister father looked at me with a troubled expression. I quickly realized what was happening, knelt down to kowtow in gratitude for my parents' years of nurturing, then packed my things and prepared to leave. Everyone thought I was overwhelmed by the shock. Maria never expected me to be so proactive and self-aware, wiping her tears as she pleaded with me. Maria doesn't mean to drive sister away. Please stay. Life in the beggar's den is truly no way to live. Hearing Maria's seemingly understanding yet sympathy-seeking words, the Prime Minister's wife cried even harder. I eagerly grasped her hand. It's all right. Just let your sister bear those hardships with peace of mind. So the Prime Minister's residence held a banquet to welcome the true heiress, reuniting the whole family. While tonight I would return to the beggar's den to find my birth parents, I turned away, doing my best to suppress my laughter. What hardships? Only I knew that in half a month, those parents from the beggar's den would transform into the new emperor and empress of the dynasty. And I will become the most noble princess of the current dynasty, a true golden branch and jade leaf. After all, I am a reborn one. Just as I was happily enjoying myself, the Prime Minister's younger brother, my handsome little uncle, gave me a complicated look. Are you really this happy to leave the Prime Minister's residence? I leaned closer to my little uncle. No, I still can't bear to part with you, little uncle. My little uncle awkwardly turned his head away. In my past life, my death was both Maria's doing and my own fault. In my past life, after Maria acknowledged her kinship, I heard her say that the beggar's den was full of lechers and petty thieves, so I stubbornly refused to return there from the Prime Minister's residence and stayed put. In the end, everyone in the Prime Minister's residence thought I was vain and morally corrupt, and they had me escorted out overnight. When I returned to the beggar's den, I was so terrified by the smiling faces of my birth parents and brother that I cried. They were deeply disappointed in me. Moreover, Maria later sowed discord between us, and I felt my birth parents only doted on Maria. After several big scenes, my relationship with my real family also became strained. In truth, all I wanted was genuine care from my family, no matter who it came from. Half a month later, my biological parents were unexpectedly summoned to the palace. Only then did I learn that my father was actually the long-lost son of the former crown prince, who had disguised himself as a beggar to evade assassination. The late emperor had no sons, so my father was recalled to the palace, and I unexpectedly gained the status of a princess. Maria was seething with hatred, while I was overjoyed at the time, completely unaware of the hidden danger around me, which ultimately led to my death at the hands of Maria. Now that I've been reborn, I've returned to this exact moment of recognition. Everything can start anew. This is the opportunity heaven has given me. I packed my bags and was cheerfully leaving the mansion when I unexpectedly found my own father, mother, and elder brother already waiting for me outside. Their clothes were tattered, but they had made an effort to appear neat and tidy. Despite their destitution, one could still see their dignified and handsome features. When my mother saw me, tears streamed down her face. She wanted to embrace me but hesitated upon seeing my luxurious attire. Seeing this, I stepped forward and hugged my mother myself. Our whole family was crying foolishly in a heap, with my elder brother gently trying to console us by the side. What made me cry was the realization that in my past life, my parents had already been waiting for me outside the mansion. Back then, I had thrown tantrums, ungrateful and unwilling to return, and they must have heard all those hurtful words I said. Father asked hesitantly, Maria, no, Miranda, would you like to come back with us? I nodded. Of course I would. From now on, I am Miranda. I returned to the beggar's den. Though called so, it was merely a term to describe the gathering place of the poor. Of course, my parents were not beggars. They each had their own livelihoods. Father was well read and made a living by writing calligraphy and household registrations. Mother was skilled in needlework and often embroidered items to sell at the market. As for my elder brother Nigel, gentle as jade and strikingly handsome, only I knew how cold and ruthless he would become after ascending the throne. In his past life, he never liked me because of Maria, and though he's polite to me now, I can still sense the distance. But it doesn't matter, father and mother dote on me. My mother handmade several sets of undergarments for me, changing with the seasons. More comfortable and fitting than those from the Prime Minister's residence, she also prepares delicious meals for me every day, turning even wild vegetables into 10 different dishes. Worried that my pampered stomach from the Prime Minister's residence might not adjust, little does she know, at the Prime Minister's residence, my meals were strictly portioned and scheduled, and I could never show a particular preference for any dish. If I did, I'd never get to eat it again. Where else could one find such carefree joy? Though my father was poor, every day after finishing his calligraphy practice for others, he would always bring back some little trinkets from the market to delight me, things like bamboo dragonflies or candy figurines, treating me completely like a child. These things might seem childish to kids from poor families, but for someone like me who grew up sheltered, they were just perfect. In my previous life, because I trusted Maria's words too easily, I was biased against them from the very beginning. I had just arrived when I quarreled with my brother. Mother didn't dare to bring out the clothes she had sewn for me with her own hands, and countless times I saw father return with little trinkets. When mother asked why he bought them, he wouldn't explain, just placed those things on the table, but I wouldn't even glance at them. They were for me all along. So I too could feel the warmth of family love. While mother and I were selling handmade embroidery on the street, we ran into Maria, and several noble ladies from the capital, adorned in gold and silver, sat in a carriage, followed by servants carrying countless items, all purchased by Maria. Our small stall blocked Maria's carriage path. A servant came down to pick a quarrel, and just as I was arguing my case, Maria leaned out and said, "What's the matter? What's all the noise about?" We were all stunned. Mother stared at her eagerly. Maria looked at us disdainfully without even getting out of the car, snorting through her nose. "Oh my, look who's here. Never thought I'd see the day you'd be dressed in such rags." Maria had once been selected as a maid for the Osborne family before her true identity was revealed. I didn't choose her when I was picking maids back then, and she's held a grudge ever since. Once a sparrow turned into a phoenix overnight. Of course she had to mock me. Mother asked in surprise, "Maria, how can you say such things?" I smiled and said, "The clothes mother made for me are comfortable and warm, and I love them. Didn't you also wear rags for over a decade?" Mother looked at me in surprise, her eyes filled with emotion. Maria cast a disdainful glance at me. "If not for you, I would have been born to a life of luxury." Maria's maid, Isabel, chimed in, "Exactly. If you kneel and beg our young lady now, she might show mercy and find you a menial job in the mansion. Even scraps from our table would be better than your wild herbs." The two burst into laughter together. Mother anxiously tugged at my sleeve, signaling me to stop engaging with them. I calmly replied, "Isabel, when you were my maid, did I ever make you eat leftovers? How come with a new master, you're acting like a dog that bites when backed by its owner?" Isabel was furious. Maria stopped her, lifting her chin arrogantly. "No need to speak with such lowly commoners." She glanced at my mother and then boarded the carriage to leave. My mother said in disbelief, "Maria, why has she become like this?" For several days in a row, troublemakers kept causing disturbances at our little stall, whether they were street bullies or local ruffians. I saw Isabel watching from a distance multiple times, smugly observing the embarrassing scene of our stall being overturned. Mother went back home crying. And even elder brother couldn't believe Maria could become so ungrateful after gaining momentary success. But mother wouldn't lie either. My elder brother murmured, "Could it be that I've misjudged her all along?" Before she returned to the Prime Minister's residence, she told me, "Miranda, you look down on our place, saying it's all lowly commoners here. I promised her she'd be my only sister, which is why I've kept some distance from you. It seems I was wrong after all." I sneered coldly. "Not only did I never say such things, but I can also tell you, brother, what she said at the Prime Minister's residence, just as well." I recounted Maria's exact words from the Prime Minister's residence. In her eyes, this was nothing but a den of thieves and beggars, teeming with cockroaches and bedbugs, utterly unfit for human habitation. "I love this home dearly. Father, mother, and brother have all been so kind to me, compared to the icy Prime Minister's residence. I'd much rather be with my family." My elder brother sighed and patted my head. Father sighed and said, "Then from now on, each will get what they deserve, and we simply won't interact anymore." "But we've never wronged Maria. Why did she have to be so ruthless?" "I know why. Because once she gained power, she naturally wanted to flaunt it. She hates me because she missed out on over a decade of wealth and luxury because of me. She hates the Luther family even more. Despising the Luther family's poverty and lowly status, which made her live in self-loathing for so many years, she also couldn't stand how quickly Mother and I grew close, because she couldn't get a shred of love from the Prime Minister's wife. The Prime Minister's wife was dignified and gracious, yet she loved no one but her son. On the 7th day of setting up the stall with my mother, those hooligans came again. They had been lying in wait and swaggered over as soon as they saw us approach. I stood in front of my mother, glaring coldly at these people I had always despised the most. Haven't you had enough? The leader of the ruffians spat on the ground. Of course not. Blame yourselves for offending a distinguished guest. He paid us to teach you a lesson, and we're just doing our job. Boys, smash it. Even the neighbors couldn't stand it anymore and stepped forward to help us. But the local thugs overturned their stalls one by one. I tried to stop them but was shoved to the ground. One of the thugs pinched my chin and clicked his tongue twice. What a pretty little thing. 10 times more beautiful than the top courtesan in the brothel. Why not follow me, big brother? I'll protect you. How about it? Slap. A crisp sound rang out, freezing everyone in their tracks. I slapped the lunatic right across the face. From childhood till now, no matter the circumstances, I've never allowed such filthy scum to lay a finger on me. The thug before me froze for a second before roaring in fury, "You fucking dare hit me." I closed my eyes amidst my mother's screams, but the anticipated pain never came. Instead, the person in front of me seemed to be yanked away and thrown harshly to the ground. A voice rang out, "The Ministry of Rights Noel is here. Who dares to cause trouble?" Noel. I opened my eyes. Looking up, I saw a man dressed in black standing before me, with striking features, sharp eyebrows and eyes, and a teardrop mole beneath his left eye. The sunlight refracted brilliantly under his jade headband, instantly dimming the beauty of everything else in his presence. It's Uncle. My eyes instantly welled up with tears as I threw myself into Noel's arms, crying pitifully, "Uncle, woo-woo." There's only a 5-year age difference between me and my little uncle. He's been aloof and solitary since childhood, and I was the only one who enjoyed clinging to him, despite his innate nobility and reserve. He never rejected my closeness. Noel cast a glance with his dark eyes, and his attendants promptly dealt with those ruffians, cleaning them up neatly before handing them directly over to the authorities. "You can let go now, little uncle. What are you doing here?" Noel said in a flat tone, "If something happens to you, I'll naturally come." I froze. We were so close, and as he met my gaze, I awkwardly lowered my hand. He silently observed my mother and me, a flicker of pity crossing his face before he said, "If you're willing, I can send you back to the Osborne family. If you don't want to return, I can also make arrangements for you." I declined my uncle's offer, telling him I was very happy with my current life. Noel silently gazed at me, nodded, and then inexplicably added, "You don't have to call me uncle anymore from now on." I wiped my tears. "Okay, uncle." Noel sighed. "Take good care of yourself. As for the matters here, I'll handle them for you." Ever since that day I met Noel, someone has been leaving gold, silver, and fine fabrics at the doorstep of my beggar's den. No one dares to cause trouble at the stall anymore. I know in my heart that this must be Noel's doing, even in my past life, when everyone abandoned me. Only Noel stayed by my side until the very end, yet I still managed to lose him. I wonder if this second chance will give me the opportunity to make it up to him. One day, Maria appeared at my doorstep in tears, wearing a plain white pear blossom dress, her delicate face streaked with tear stains. She said she had come to apologize, admitting she shouldn't have been momentarily confused and listened to that maid's instigation to make trouble for me and my mother. She had already punished the maid by expelling her from the Prime Minister's residence. This time, she had come specifically to invite me to the residence to celebrate the old madam's birthday. Hearing this, I felt something was amiss. What sense did it make for someone of my current status to attend the old madam's birthday celebration? Alas, Maria kept calling everyone father, mother, and brother, and with just a few words, she made everyone forget her flaws. A pang of bitterness struck my heart. Finally, my brother spoke up. "Miranda, the Osborne family raised you, so you should still go and see them. I'll wait outside for you. Whenever you want to leave, just come to the gate and find me." Maria's smile froze on her face. "There's no need, brother. I'll have someone send Miranda's sister home," Nigel said. "That's different. After all, she's my own younger sister. I'd rather pick her up myself." An unspoken distinction between closeness and distance made Maria's smile appear so stiff. When I followed Maria out, Maria whispered softly, "I didn't expect you to be so capable, winning over everyone one by one. Not only did you quickly make Nigel willingly treat you as a sister, but last time, Uncle Noel saved you and even reported me to the master. It must have been your idea for me to be punished by family discipline, right?" I shook my head and said, "It's simply sincerity for sincerity." I treat Nigel as a brother, so naturally, he treats me as a sister. As for uncle, I smiled somewhat provocatively. Sorry, he's always been on my side since childhood, Maria said coldly. Let's see how long you can stay smug. The next day, I boarded Maria's prearranged carriage and noticed something amiss as soon as I sat down. Why was the seat cushion so damp? When I touched it, the red cushion cover was smeared with pig blood that was hard to detect. She really had ill intentions. The moment I stepped out of the carriage, the large red stain on my back would surely draw pointing fingers. What should I do? As I was about to alight from the carriage, Maria stood smiling at the door, urging me to step down. Sister, the Osborne residence is here. Why aren't you coming down yet? I gritted my teeth and said, Maria, you've got some nerve. Maria didn't respond. Sister, grandmother is still waiting for you in the main hall. If you don't come down like this, do you expect grandmother to come invite you herself? The crowd of onlookers grew larger, mostly consisting of guests who began pointing and whispering, isn't that the fake heiress from before, the imposter, the one living in beggars' quarters now? How dare she not even get off the carriage? Who does she think she is? Look at the real Osborne family lady, so gracious and kind. Now, imposter, step out of the car. TSK, Maria said gently. Everyone, please don't say such things. Perhaps sister isn't feeling well, isn't that right, sister? The vulgar remarks outside the car suddenly made me realize one thing. From the moment I stepped out of the Osborne family, I should have abandoned all my insignificant pride. What does it matter if my dress is covered in pig's blood? I've even given up my status as the Osborne family's young lady. What do I have to fear? Once I made up my mind, I stood up to leave the sedan chair, just as expected, the moment I stepped out. The crowd burst into laughter. My God, what is that behind her? After staying in a beggar's den, she didn't even notice that. How embarrassing. Maria also exclaimed in surprise. Sister, how did your dress end up like this? It's a pity that my figure isn't the same as yours. I'll go find some servant's clothes for you to change into. Would you mind that? I stared at her steadily. I wouldn't mind, but I don't like wearing other people's clothes. At that moment, I suddenly saw Noel walking towards me. Noel was dressed in a long silver fox fur coat, standing tall and graceful. The emerald-studded forehead ornament accentuated his jade-like complexion. My uncle's beauty had long been renowned throughout the capital. His mere presence naturally drew everyone's gaze. He glanced at me indifferently, asking not a single question, then removed his snow-white, priceless fox fur cloak and draped it over me in front of everyone. I heard someone in the crowd whisper, "Isn't that the fox fur cloak bestowed by the Emperor himself?" I looked at him in astonishment. "Uncle," Noel said, "there's no issue with you wearing my clothes. Go inside." Maria came to her senses and hurriedly said, "Uncle, there's no need for this. I'll go find another dress for my sister." Noel didn't even acknowledge her, simply shielding me from behind as we entered the mansion together, without even thinking. One could imagine the expression on the face of the Prime Minister's true heiress Noel as she was publicly left standing outside. Returning to the Prime Minister's mansion, the familiar tedious formalities began again. The Prime Minister's residence may be vast and frequented by many, but the lack of genuine warmth among people is indeed true. I sat idly on the mat, with all my former sisters and elders treating me as if I were invisible, partly because Maria was present, and partly because Noel remained by my side the entire time. Noel's frosty demeanor was certainly enough to keep strangers at bay. Bored, I poked Noel and asked, "Uncle, why are you so kind to me?" Noel looked at me and said something unexpected. "I haven't been good enough to you." I was somewhat stunned. "What are you talking about? If you're not good, who could be better? If you weren't my little uncle, I would marry you no matter what." Noel gazed at me with deep eyes and turned to say, "You don't have to think of me as your little uncle." The little lion jade bead I had been fiddling with suddenly fell, hitting my foot. I bent down in pain to pick it up, though it was really to hide the fluster in my heart. My face flushed slightly. Was it just my imagination a moment ago? He truly wasn't my little uncle anymore. Maria, when she stepped forward to offer birthday wishes, everyone praised her for being graceful and dignified, a true lady of noble upbringing. Clearly, she had put in considerable effort. However, during the banquet, she kept mentioning that her jade hairpin had gone missing at some point, asking her maid to help search for it. I hadn't paid much attention at first, but when the butler publicly announced the birthday gifts during the toast, I found myself in serious trouble. The brocade box I had presented was supposed to contain a bottle of white mead. White mead is exceptionally rare, and knowing my grandmother loved it, I had pawned the jewelry I'd saved up to buy the last bottle at a high price. But when the butler opened it, I was surprised to find an extra jade hairpin inside. The gift was displayed before everyone, and someone exclaimed in surprise, "Isn't this Maria's hairpin?" An awkward silence fell over the room. Maria stood up and feigned surprise. saying, "This is indeed my hairpin, but how did it end up in my sister's congratulatory gift?" The crowd erupted in murmurs, and the Prime Minister's face darkened as he demanded, "What is the meaning of this?" Maria suddenly knelt down. "Father, please don't pursue this matter anymore. Although this hairpin was given to me by mother, elder sister is also mother's daughter. Let this be my gift to her." Good grief, with her saying this, everyone will think I'm jealous of her. That I stole her hairpin and had no place to hide it, so I put it in the birthday box. In previous years, birthday gifts for grandmother were never made public. I don't know why there's an additional public display process this year. Clearly, Maria has gone to great lengths to humiliate me. "Miranda, how could you do such a thing?" a distant aunt also exclaimed. After all, she was once a lady of good breeding, even if life hasn't treated her well now. She shouldn't have reached for someone else's jewelry. No wonder she came from a beggar's den. Maria was still playing the victim. "No, I gave it to my sister." Noel was about to speak up for me, but I signaled for him to sit down. "I could handle this matter myself," I said solemnly. "First of all, I did not take Maria's hairpin. Back in the Prime Minister's residence, I was dearly loved by my parents. I wouldn't ruin my own reputation over a piece of jewelry, let alone place it in such an obvious spot as the birthday gift box to humiliate myself. I'm not that foolish. Secondly, coming from a beggar's den doesn't affect my words or actions. If one judges character by origin, then Aunt's words are rather shallow." I picked up the hairpin and examined it briefly in the sunlight, immediately spotting the trick. "I can tell everyone, this is not Maria's hairpin." Maria was stunned and laughed awkwardly. "How could that be, sister?" "Of course I recognize my own hairpin." I smiled, picked up the hairpin, and walked over to her. "Would the women of the Osborne family use a hairpin inlaid with inferior jadeite?" As soon as these words were spoken, everyone in the room froze. High-quality hairpins are judged by their clarity. Glass-like or icy texture is best, and top-grade jadeite is mostly vibrant emerald green, pure in texture, bright and vivid in color. Inferior jadeite, on the other hand, has poor clarity, uneven color distribution, and is mostly pale green or grayish-white. I raised the hairpin into the sunlight. "Everyone, take a look at this hairpin." Under the sunlight, it appears pale green with cracks inside, a defective piece among inferior goods, and its texture is murky. The Osborne family sources most of their jade, and even the lowest quality they use is medium-grade jadeite. It would never be as dull in color as this hairpin. Why don't you, mother, take a look and confirm whether this is the hairpin you gifted to Maria? I handed the hairpin to the Prime Minister's wife, whose face darkened instantly. Without a word, she shot Maria a sharp glare. Now everyone understood what was going on. I teased with a smile. "So, Maria, you wouldn't mistake any green stone for jadeite, would you? Surely you can tell the quality of jade." Someone began to whisper, "That Osborne family young lady is so despicable. Turns out she was the one who set them up." After all, Miss Miranda was raised spoiled in the Prime Minister's mansion since childhood. She's seen so much of the world. What if she's the real heiress? Having grown up poor, she can't even tell jade from glass. Maria's head gradually sank lower. At this point, I smoothly changed the subject. "It's understandable that my sister couldn't recognize it, as this was actually a surprise I prepared for grandmother. I had someone bring out that jug of white mead. Knowing grandmother's preferences, I specially prepared white mead as a token of filial piety, but I felt something was missing, so I thought of the poem, 'When golden hairpins meet jade dew, they surpass all worldly wonders.' Using this gold-inlaid jadeite hairpin to represent the golden hairpin and the white mead as jade dew, your granddaughter has thus presented grandmother with an auspicious sign that surpasses all worldly wonders." With these few words, I effortlessly diffused the awkwardness, but I didn't do it to Maria a favor. I just didn't want the Prime Minister and his wife to feel awkward, as that wouldn't benefit me either. Prime Minister father repeatedly praised me for being thoughtful, and even grandmother rarely showed a smile. Among the guests, some began to flatter me again, while Maria was completely ignored. I turned back with a smile, just in time to meet Noel's gaze, and we exchanged a knowing smile. Speaking of all this knowledge about jade, it was all taught to me by Noel in the past. Never thought there would come a day when it would actually be useful. During the banquet, Maria kept glaring at me viciously. With all her schemes failing today, she must hate me to death. Unfortunately, I had no mind to spare for her. After fulfilling the courtesies, I wanted to go home, and my brother Nigel was already waiting for me outside. Maria saw I was about to leave and hurriedly offered to see me out. With no one else around, I sighed. "Maria, is this really necessary? We have nothing to do with each other now. Can't you just live your privileged life in peace?" Maria gave a faint smile, but her words were seething. "With you around, I can't forget the days I spent as a maid in the Osborne family, nor can I forget how everyone always took your side. Miranda, you're just a lowly girl from a beggar's den. What right do you have to compete with me, to compare yourself to me? I didn't want to engage with her, yet she insisted on chasing after me, determined to say things that would unsettle my heart. At this moment, a servant suddenly announced that the chief eunuch from the palace had unexpectedly arrived. The butler hurriedly opened the door, and no one knew what was happening. Then, the eunuch saw me and respectfully called out, "Greetings, Your Highness the Princess." Maria's expression changed drastically, and the Prime Minister also rushed over, unaware of what had occurred. I counted the days, and oh dear, it seems the half-month deadline has truly arrived. Nigel followed behind the eunuch, signaling for me to come over. The eunuch then leisurely announced that the late emperor had passed away last night due to illness. As it was a secret mourning, the news had been delayed. The late emperor had no sons, and the Luther family, being descendants of the royal lineage and ordained by heaven, were appointed by the Empress Dowager to enthrone Kelsey as the new emperor. Naturally, Kelsey's daughter Miranda would now be the princess. This servant has been ordered to escort the princess back to the palace to observe the mourning rites. As for the Prime Minister, your family's birthday banquet should be cancelled to avoid disrespect to the late emperor. No one had anticipated this turn of events, especially Maria. She staggered unsteadily, nearly collapsing to the ground. Her eyes were vacant. Why? Later, my father was draped in the imperial yellow robe on the spot, and our entire family was ushered into the royal carriage, receiving kneeling salutes as we toured the city. The grand procession of the imperial carriage circled the royal city once. At the sight of the royal entourage, everyone had to kneel by the street, including those from the Prime Minister's residence. As we passed the Prime Minister's residence, I deliberately drew back the carriage curtain, facing directly Maria's face. Twisted with envy, though she was kneeling, she looked up at me, her eyes filled with nothing but jealousy. I could hear her inner thoughts even from inside the car. Why not me? If I just endure a little longer, all of this would be mine. I gave her a radiant smile, which only made her expression darker, just like in my past life. I was then enfeoffed as the most noble legitimate princess and moved into the Chowhua Palace, the nation's most precious jewel, a true golden branch and jade leaf. What's so great about being the daughter of a mere prime minister that I should compete for it? However, Maria gave me something, and I must return the favor. Not long after we entered the palace, Maria also requested an audience. She was dressed simply and plainly, in plain clothes, just like when we were in the beggar's den. Father originally didn't want to see her, but I said there's no harm in meeting, as I already know what she's going to say to you. I count on my fingers. First, she'll definitely talk about the warmth of past familial bonds and how she didn't appreciate her good fortune at the time. Second, she'll surely complain that the Prime Minister's residence lacks human kindness, that others looked down on her, and that she envied me for receiving our parents' affection. Third, she was willing to fulfill her filial duties by entering the palace to accompany her parents. As soon as I finished speaking, I quickly hid behind the screen, and at that moment Maria entered with reddened eyes. Maria entered and immediately fell to her knees in tears. "Father, Mother, your daughter has come to beg for forgiveness." The Emperor and Empress exchanged a complicated glance with each other. Then Maria began pouring out her grievances like beans, exactly as I had just described. Without the slightest difference, my daughter truly cannot endure staying any longer in that cold and heartless Prime Minister's residence. The debt of upbringing is greater than heaven itself. I wish to frequently enter the palace to stay by my parents' side and fulfill my filial duties. In my past life, my relationship with my parents was strained. Maria never got the chance to smash the stall, so after she entered the palace and cried this plea, my parents couldn't bear it and actually granted her the title of princess, allowing her to frequently visit the palace to keep them company. By the time I rushed over upon hearing the news, the family of 3 was happily eating together. I stood there like an outsider, so I made another huge scene. But in this life, my father coughed lightly, and my mother said gracefully, "Maria, you've been wronged, but as the saying goes, a child does not dislike their mother for being ugly. Nor does a dog dislike its home for being poor. No matter how unfavorable the Prime Minister's residence may be, it is still your home. Having Miranda by our side to show filial piety is enough. You should go back and spend more time with the Prime Minister." Maria looked astonished. How was this different from what she had imagined? Then, without even offering her a meal, my mother directly had her escorted out of the palace. My father stood up and flipped the screen. "Stop hiding. Miranda, what would you like for dinner? I'll have the Imperial kitchen prepare it for you." "Alright." The Imperial Household Department sent me a new maid, named Lisa. Lisa, I thought to myself, this is truly a name that has left an indelible mark on my memory. Once upon a time, Lisa was my favorite maid, because she introduced many male companions to me when I was most isolated and helpless. Those handsome male companions comforted my lonely life in the palace and also completely ruined my reputation, because she was someone bought by Maria. Now, Lisa bows gracefully and says, "From now on, this servant will serve the princess." The head of the Imperial Household Department asked if I was satisfied. I waved my hand and still kept her by my side. Though she might be a ticking time bomb, she could also be a useful weapon. Lisa, just like in my past life, shortly after arriving, she guessed my preferences and introduced many male companions to me. She didn't know that in my past life, I took in so many male companions because I lacked parental love and felt emotionally lonely. I don't need it at all now, but I still played along and accepted it. I will step by step uproot Maria's plans to destroy me in advance, forcing her to reveal her true colors. Soon, news of me taking male concubines spread from the palace, but strangely, no one seemed to react. In my past life, I took 10 male consorts and they called me a debauched, shameless woman. This time I took 20, and no one even bats an eye. I tested the waters to see how people around me would react. My mother sipped her tea. "Miranda, as long as you're happy." My father frowned. "The male consorts are fine, but I'm not sure if their looks are worthy of serving my daughter." My brother, "I don't know Miranda's preferences. I know several handsome scholars at the Hanlon Academy. Perhaps I could introduce a few more." That's a bit of a double standard. Only one person reacted, and that was my little uncle Noel. According to protocol, princesses like me who are brought back from commoner backgrounds must undergo royal etiquette training in the palace. The one who came to train me was none other than the head of the Ministry of Rights, my little uncle, Noel. Noel didn't need to announce his arrival when coming to see me, so when he arrived, I was completely unaware. Surrounded by a group of handsome men, Noel quietly watched me until I felt the air around me grow colder and turned to look. Well, my gorgeous little uncle stood there, his radiance almost outshining all my consorts. I was about to throw myself at him. "Little Uncle Tilda." Little Uncle reached out and pushed me aside. He stared at those heavily made up, flirtatious male companions and said calmly, "Are these your kept men?" I replied somewhat guiltily, "No, they're not mine." As I defended myself, I waved my hand to signal them to leave quickly. One of the male concubines recognized Noel and, with reckless audacity, quipped, "Oh, since when does Noel meddle in affairs of love between men and women?" The air instantly grew colder by a degree. Noel, for some reason, abruptly drew a sword from a guard, in the blink of an eye. The blade's tip pressed against the man's forehead with lightning speed, drawing blood instantly. Noel remained expressionless, his voice colder than an ice cellar. "Get out." The concubine practically crawled away, and within 10 seconds, all 20 concubines had fled without a trace. I tugged at his sleeve. "Does Uncle think I'm shameless?" Noel gazed at me deeply with his jet-black eyes, his expression complex, without uttering a word. "This minister will teach your highness etiquette another day. Farewell." Noel left, inexplicably angry as he walked away, watching his retreating figure. For a moment, I recalled the forgotten past. In my past life, it was precisely because of the matter with the male concubine that I broke with Noel. Noel had always been on my side. Maria knew this all along, and it was a thorn in her heart. Maria conspired with the male concubine she had arranged, drugged me with hallucinogens at night, and then sent Lisa to find Noel, saying something had happened to the princess. Wait, Noel. By the time Noel arrived in a frantic rush, I was already lost in hallucinations. Mistaking him for my handsome male companion, I immediately went in for hugs and kisses. "Princess, Miranda, you, my beauty." My beauty. Unable to recognize him, I pulled him into my arms and kissed him forcefully without another word. Noel was caught off guard by my move. Just as I was about to drag him onto the bed, he struck my back hard, knocking me unconscious instantly. In my previous life, my palace was filled with Maria's spies, so this matter was naturally exposed quickly. Everyone was shocked, as they all knew Noel was once my little uncle. Some even accused me in court of having an improper relationship with him, disregarding moral principles, and demanded that my princess title be revoked. My father slapped me on the spot, and the Prime Minister remained silent, but Noel stepped forward. "It was I who coveted the princess's beauty and disregarded moral principles. I voluntarily resign and accept punishment. This matter has nothing to do with the princess." The Prime Minister angrily rebuked, "What does this have to do with you? Don't falsely accuse yourself. Do you know what will happen if this spreads?" Noel lowered his eyes and interrupted the Prime Minister's words. "My admiration for the princess is no lie." The court was stunned. Noel was stripped of his official rank and reduced to a commoner, removing his official robes before the eyes of all, and I knelt in the court, not daring to meet his eyes, only able to watch his retreating figure, never daring to speak the truth. Finally, everyone left. Maria appeared, smiling and mocking me. "Noel was demoted to a commoner for you, And you really are pathetic, yes, so pathetic. Pathetic enough that someone else had to take the blame for the foolish things I did. I kept pondering Noel's words in the court back then, and suddenly I really wanted to ask him, was it genuine or just pretense? I was shocked by my own thoughts. How could I harbor such improper feelings for my uncle? Even though we weren't related by blood, now that I've been reborn, how could I let this happen again? I must strike first to gain the upper hand. That night, I chose the most handsome male companion to share my bed. Just as he was eagerly preparing to serve me, I smiled at him, drew a dagger, and plunged it fiercely into my own shoulder. The male concubine was startled, and I shouted loudly, "Guards, there's an assassin!" That male concubine was quickly apprehended by the guards who rushed in. I pointed at the male concubine and said, "He is the assassin." The male concubine cried out, "I'm innocent, the princess stabbed herself." The commander of the imperial guard knocked him to the ground. "What nonsense are you spouting? How dare you slander the princess?" Soon, the matter reached my father the emperor and the empress. Since I had always shown great favor to these male consorts, no one questioned my words. They quickly began investigating who had presented these male consorts to me, and soon Lisa was taken away. I was not unaware of the palace's investigative methods. And soon Lisa and those male consorts confessed under torture. They were all bought by the eldest daughter of the Osborne family, Maria, and planted around me. Maria was brought before the emperor, who said sternly, "In the past, we raised you as our own daughter. What do you have to say for yourself now? I'm innocent." "Father, no, your majesty. Although I did arrange for a few people, it was only out of concern for my sister. Fearing that something might happen to her in the palace and she would need assistance, I never had any intention of harming her." Upon hearing this, my brother frowned and said, "Do you even believe your own words?" Maria looked up with tearful, innocent eyes. "Brother, believe me, I really didn't." Nigel shook his head upon hearing this. "My sister Maria from the past was not like this. From beginning to end, I didn't say a word, just watched calmly." The Queen Mother put her arm around my shoulder and asked gently, "How do you want to handle this?" Everyone's eyes were on me. Maria stared at me intently, clearly aware that she had been outmaneuvered by me now. I never wished to see her again. As for how to deal with her, she was once your daughter, father, and mother. So I leave it to your discretion. After I said these words, it only deepened father and mother's pity for me, because I had spoken what was in their hearts. Maria had lived with them day and night for over a decade, and was once their beloved daughter. No matter how close I am to them now, the bond of those past years cannot be severed so easily. Finally, Maria was sent back to the Osborne household, forever barred from entering the palace. The emperor issued an edict ordering the prime minister to properly manage his family affairs. I knew Maria would not have an easy time. After Maria was returned to the Osborne household, it was said that the prime minister invoked family discipline, whipping Maria so severely she couldn't leave her bed. Meanwhile, Noel, upon hearing of my injury, was frantic with worry and sent me medicine for several days. After all my consorts had left, he seemed somewhat more cheerful when visiting my palace. "Uncle, why do you seem to be in such a good mood lately?" "Just your imagination." I propped my chin on my hand and watched him, as all sorts of random thoughts kept surfacing in my mind. Especially that one sentence he uttered in the imperial court in my past life. This subject's admiration for the princess is no empty words. Lost in thought, I drifted off, my face flushing uncontrollably. Noel tapped on my desk, frowning slightly. "The princess has been absent-minded lately, Noel." As soon as the words left my mouth, both Noel and I froze. I had never called him by his name before. Noel remained expressionless, slightly lowering his gaze. "Please speak, princess." I stammered, You're not getting any younger. Why haven't you married yet?" Noel quietly looked at me. If there's a woman in the capital who catches your eye, you can tell me, I can help you." Noel smiled, his expression like spring snow about to melt. "Your Highness, there is indeed a woman in my heart." My heart rose to my throat as he slowly said, "But your Highness cannot help me." I chuckled awkwardly, trying to lighten the mood, but deep down I felt utterly dejected. After that, I couldn't process anything else he said. Just as he was about to leave, I couldn't help but call out to him again, "What you said earlier, why can't I help you?" Noel turned around and walked toward me step by step, his eyes as deep as the night. He murmured, "I fear she may be trapped by worldly conventions and idle gossip. After all, they can be terrifying." Noel, I pondered for a long time after he left. Was that his way of confessing the ways of the world, the idle talk of people? Didn't he stand up for me in our past life too? Now that I've been reborn, why should I still fear these things? Later, Noel never came to see me again. I learned all the etiquette I was supposed to, yet I missed him more and more. But what can longing do? What could I even say when I see him again? My mood grew increasingly restless, But then, at court, something happened that caught me completely off guard. A foreign envoy came to pay homage to the new emperor and requested a marriage alliance with our dynasty. The subject of the marriage alliance, naturally, was the princess. I was drinking tea in the Queen Mother's palace when I heard the news, and the teacup slipped from my hand, shattering into pieces on the ground. The Queen Mother held my hand with concern. "Miranda, don't be afraid. I would rather die than send you away for a political marriage." I threw myself into the Queen Mother's embrace. She didn't understand. That wasn't what I feared. I just couldn't help but recall the dead end of my past life, the one I had walked into step by step. In my past life, my relationship with my parents was nearly frozen, and later, due to the incident involving male consorts, my reputation for debauchery even spread beyond the palace walls. Noel, after being demoted to a commoner, there was no one left by my side who truly cared for me. My father and mother grew increasingly fond of Maria, and they built a magnificent princess residence for Maria, which was even more lavish than mine. Later on, no one remembered me as a princess, but when foreign envoys came seeking a marriage alliance, Maria did not hesitate to push me forward. "But the person I'm to marry is actually a 60-year-old king with a harem of wives and concubines." Naturally, I refused to go, but no one listened to me. They simply thought I was being immature, enjoying the privileges of a princess but unwilling to contribute to the nation. Later, my maid Lisa suggested that I could threaten His Majesty with suicide, as he would surely be too kind-hearted to send me away for marriage. Foolish as I was, I could no longer think straight. I followed her advice and planned to hang myself, only to have my maid set the room on fire and lock the door from the outside. Maria smiled at me from beyond the door. "Sending you off for a political marriage was already too good for you. Since you're so stupid, just die here." Yes, I was truly foolish. I didn't even know who had sent those charming men to deceive me before accepting them, nor did I realize my maid had been bribed. I screamed and pounded on the door, but the flames only grew fiercer. I was burned alive in the palace. The torment of being burned remains fresh in my memory, and the mere thought of it brings a pain like flesh being torn apart. I trembled in my mother's arms, filled with regret for what I had done. How could I have been so foolish? My father summoned me to the palace to ask for my opinion on the marriage alliance. My mother and brother both told me, if I am unwilling, they would never send me away for a political marriage. I patted their hands to reassure them. Upon entering the hall, the first person I saw was none other than Noel. Suddenly, the phrase human ethics and worldly gossip flashed through my mind. Was it truly something to fear? His gaze was no longer calm, but filled with concern as he looked at me, rising to the level of a political marriage, a matter concerning the friendship between two nations. How could he possibly protect me? I performed a graceful bow and listened as my father, the king, spoke from the throne. "Miranda, you must already be aware of the matter regarding the political marriage. I ask you now, are you willing to go through with it?" I remained silent for a few seconds, not out of hesitation, but because I was gambling on one thing. "I am willing to share your burden, Father. However, my heart already belongs to another." Father did not expect me to say this. He asked again, "Who is the one you love?" I slowly stood up, gathering the courage in my heart to take this step. It truly was difficult. I finally made up my mind and pointed in a direction with my bare hand, drawing everyone's gaze toward it. And at the very moment I pointed, Noel happened to take a step forward. The one I pointed at was Noel. The entire room erupted in uproar. I gazed into Noel's eyes, and saw him smiling faintly at me. In that moment, it felt as if the world had faded away, leaving just the two of us. Several elder ministers could no longer contain themselves. "Your Highness, that Noel, was once your uncle. How would this look if word got out?" I solemnly declared, "He is not my uncle, and we share no blood relation now. If we are in love, what is wrong with that?" The emperor, shocked, then asked Noel for his meaning. Noel spoke word by word. "Your subject offends by seeking the princess's hand in marriage. My admiration for the princess is long-standing and not empty words." The ministers began arguing noisily among themselves, eventually giving the emperor such a headache. Silence. The emperor looked at me and sighed. "Our kingdom's strength has not weakened to the point where we must send a princess to marry for the sake of maintaining diplomatic relations. This matter depends entirely on the princess's will. No one else is to speak further. Court is dismissed." As I expected, this matter caused a huge uproar. Many ministers accused us of disregarding moral principles. How laughable. There isn't the slightest blood relation between him and me. What moral principles are they talking about? What I didn't anticipate was that my father was still hesitating, and neither the empress nor my brother supported my decision. Back when my mother and I were harassed by local ruffians while running a stall at the market, Noel stepped in to help, leaving a deep impression on my mother. But she wouldn't accept this matter either. My daughter, it's not for any other reason, but for your sake, leaving aside that Noel was once your uncle, how could you bear the gossip and rumors? As for my brother, he also believed there were countless reasons not to marry for alliance, but this method should never be chosen. I know they all mean well for me, but he truly loves our daughter, and she isn't afraid of gossip. We grew up together as childhood sweethearts, and now we share no blood relation. I beg your majesties to grant us your blessing. The Empress Mother angrily retorted, absolutely not. The Emperor mediated, saying, those old fellows don't actually care about Miranda and Noel's past relationship, they just insist that I must send a daughter for a political marriage. As the Emperor, if I don't shed some blood, how can the ministers feel at ease? At this moment, the elder brother quietly remarked, Father Emperor, don't you have another daughter? Since the incident where Maria bribed my people was exposed, my brother has been extremely displeased with her. Father suddenly looked up, that's right. Soon after, Father conferred upon Maria the title of Princess of Peace and Harmony, scheduling her official investiture into the palace on a selected day. The Prime Minister's family considered it a great honor. After all, she was a distant daughter who could bring glory to the family. Maria received the imperial decree with gratitude. In the end, the outcome was changed by me, yet, I still felt somewhat uneasy. Later, Maria entered the palace to receive her title. But I did not attend her investiture ceremony. I had no intention of appearing to provoke her, but unexpectedly, she sought me out. Maria used some means to drug my maid and was lurking in my palace. The moment I returned, she was waiting for me behind the door. You're finally back. I was startled. Maria, what are you doing here? Maria said faintly. Naturally, to share a few intimate words with you. She bolted the door, a dagger slipping from her sleeve. I never managed to outwit you in the end. Everyone sides with you. Why? Why does everyone adore you so much? She advanced toward me step by step, and I slowly retreated. You were the one who insisted on making me your imaginary enemy. What's wrong with being the Chancellor's daughter? Everything is wrong. Maria screamed hoarsely. Why was I the one who suffered 18 years of poverty, while you ended up becoming a princess, a golden branch and jade leaf? Why do both my birth parents and adoptive parents side with you? Even my uncle favors you. Oh yes, he even publicly declared his admiration for you, saying he's been smitten with you for a long time. Ha 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 ha. Maria, tears streamed down her cheeks. Why doesn't anyone like me? No matter what position I reach, no one likes me. I was stunned. Wasn't this exactly what I had agonized over day and night in the past? I used to be the same way, no matter what position I attained. Whether I feigned agreeableness or showed genuine emotion, no one liked me. Maria and I seemed like two people destined to oppose each other, fighting over a single share of affection. When one got it, the other couldn't. She is in such pain now. But if I tell her everything that happened in our past life, would she burst into laughter? Maria wiped away her tears and said, I've always envied you. You're beautiful and noble, while I spent 18 years in poverty, unable to even recognize the quality of jade. Now, I've finally been granted the empty title of a princess, only to be sent off for a political marriage. Such a marriage is no different from a death sentence. My life is already buried here anyway. Miranda, why don't I just take you with me? Maria, why don't you think about what you've done? Leaving aside the people of the Osborne family, at least our father, mother, and brother truly loved you. It was you who saw me as an enemy and revealed your true nature, breaking their hearts. You say I enjoyed 18 years of wealth and luxury, but didn't you also enjoy 18 years of our parents' love? Maria was stunned. You're obsessed with comparison, thinking you've endured 18 years of poverty and hardship. You don't understand Jade, so where has all your time gone now? Spent on crushing me, envying me, even if I were the one sent away for a political marriage. Do you think you'd have one? Maria, enraged by my provocation, charged at me with a dagger in hand. As I called for help, we ended up wrestling with each other. It's useless. I've knocked out all your people outside. Today, we'll die together here. Taking advantage of her distraction, I pushed her down, but she accidentally knocked over a candle stand. The flames quickly spread to the bed curtains. I froze, suddenly recalling the flames that had filled the sky in my past life. Did all my efforts come to nothing, only to end like this in the end? Maria lay on the ground, watching the spreading flames, and laughed almost hysterically. This is fine. This is fine. No one cares about me anyway. I grabbed her sleeve and slapped her hard across the face. Idiot. Maria glared at me with venomous hatred. These flames nearly ignited all my fears, making every pore on my body tremble. If you want to die, don't drag others down with you. You've already won once. Do you know what truly made the Emperor decree to confer you the title of princess? It was because of the Prime Minister's memorial. He personally petitioned to have you ennobled as a princess, to replace me in the marriage alliance. Did you think it was our father and mother's will? After my brother finished speaking that day, it was merely to vent his anger. But the Prime Minister repeatedly submitted memorials until our father finally made up his mind. There was indeed an intention to send you for the marriage alliance, but you weren't to marry that dying old man. How could our father bear to send you to him? He intended for you to marry the next heir of the Turks, who is still unmarried. Going there would make you the crown princess. What dissatisfaction could you possibly have? Do you know what it's like to have no one care for you? It was me. Back then, protesting on my own only to be exploited by you, with no one caring whom I married. Having finally changed all this, how could I possibly die now? Maria stared at me in shock, only to be slapped hard by me again. How could I possibly die together with someone as foolish and wicked as you? By this time, thick smoke had already billowed outside the palace. Some people noticed the fire within and began gathering around, but the door was bolted shut. They couldn't get in at all. I wanted to go and open the door when suddenly a beam crashed down, and roaring flames immediately erupted in front of me. This scene is exactly the same as in my past life. The thick smoke made it almost impossible to breathe, and then I heard Noel and my brother's voices as they ordered someone to break down the door. I wanted to tell them I was still here, but now even breathing was difficult. I'm sorry, Maria murmured as she gradually lost consciousness, and I'm not much better off either. The flames have already spread to the hem of my skirt, the searing pain just like in my past life. Is it truly impossible to escape the fateful ending? I closed my eyes, memories inexplicably flashing incessantly through my mind, the days when Noel and I first met as children, the time I returned to my birth parents, Noel placing the silver fox fur cloak over my shoulders, and the days after entering the palace when my brother took me to fly kites. There I was, pointing at Noel among the crowd, and he happened to take that step toward me. Human relationships, worldly loves and hatreds, at this moment, they all turned to nothingness. It felt like I had been dreaming for a very, very long time. I dreamed of that day when the palace chambers burned, and in the end, the door was still opened by them. Amidst the raging flames, Noel and his brother both rushed in. Amid the scorching smell of fire, I caught the distinct cold fragrance unique to Noel. At the door, my father and mother were calling my name, their voices choked with tears. I wonder, in my past life, did anyone ever weep for me like this? When I woke up, I was lying in bed. In the grand room, a ray of sunlight streamed through. This was indeed the place where I lived. I instinctively looked at the palm lines on my hand, and for some reason, feeling the sunlight shining on it, the warm yellow patterns and the sound of my heartbeat were all reminding me, this was not a dream. I survived. After I woke up, my father the emperor, my mother the empress, and my elder brother all came to see me immediately. They cried upon seeing me, unable to stop their tears no matter what. Only my brother managed to keep his emotions somewhat under control. He told me that day he and Noel forced the door open together. He had never seen Noel so out of control before. Despite being the Minister of Rights, Noel carried me on his back while my brother carried Maria. And together they managed to rescue us. Fortunately, my brother wasn't seriously injured. Maria was also saved. But Noel suffered severe burns. I panicked. Where is he? I need to go find him. My brother stammered. He's still unconscious. My parents stopped me. You should rest first. Don't rush. But how could I not be anxious? The Queen Mother told me. Noel had already been brought to the palace to recuperate, and naturally, her future son-in-law should be received in the palace. The Queen Mother smiled at me. She had already accepted Noel. At night, I couldn't wait to see Noel. His room was pitch black. Presumably he was still unconscious, but I really wanted to see him. I took advantage of the moment when no one was around to sneak into his room, but as soon as I entered, I bumped into a solid chest. I almost screamed. Noel covered my mouth. I turned to look. Noel was wearing a white undergarment, his long ink-black hair cascading over his shoulders. His peach blossom-like eyes still intoxicating. He was perfectly fine, yet my brother lied to me, saying he was unconscious. I threw myself into his arms. Uncle, woo-woo, Noel said helplessly. When will you stop calling me uncle? Okay, uncle. Moonlight streamed through the window. Noel's profile was faintly edged with silver in the moonlight. I hadn't been awake for long and was about to go find you, but I didn't expect you to come on your own. I smiled slightly. Does this count as us having a tacit understanding, little uncle? My mother said that once your injuries heal, she'll promote you to a higher rank. Noel still wore a faint smile. As the imperial son-in-law, yeah, my face flushed slightly as I looked up at this extraordinarily handsome little uncle, who gently pulled me into his embrace. When did you start liking me, uncle? A very, very long time ago. So that statement he made in the imperial court in our past life was truly not an empty promise. He whispered in my ear, Miranda, thank you for being the only one among thousands to choose me. I shook my head and hugged him back. It wasn't, it's me who should thank you, Noel. whether in past lives or this one. You've always been by my side. What I've spent my whole life searching for is nothing more than this. The end.